We thought we would invite onto the Armstrong and Getty Show for the umpteenth time Congressman Tom McClintock of the 4th Congressional District. He's a member of the committee, on the Committee on the Budget, Committee on Natural Resources, the primary reason we have him on. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Just fine, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Please excuse that rambling and incompetent introduction. Anyway, so
I'm from Washington. That's normal.
Let me just hit you with this assertion. Nature causes droughts. Politicians cause water shortages. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have not built a major reservoir in this state since 1979, while the population's nearly doubled. Everybody thinks the Great Western River is the Colorado. The Colorado is significantly smaller than the Sacramento. The difference is we store 70 million acre-feet of water on the Colorado, but only 10 million acre-feet on the Sacramento. Most of the rest of that we lose to the ocean every year because we haven't mustered the political will, even to finish the dams that we've started.
Well, in that amount of time, there have been Republican and Democratic governors. How come nothing has happened on that front?
Because about 30 years ago, this radical and retrograde ideology seeped into our resources policy that basically we have to restore Mother Nature to her pristine prehistoric state, even if that requires transforming the human population back to its prehistoric state. It is an imbecilic policy that's not only prevented us from storing water in wet years so that we have it during droughts, but now in droughts, with the precious little water we've got remaining behind our dams, we're being required to release it not to meet essential human needs, but to control the water temperature for the fish in the rivers, to nudge little salmon and steelhead smolts to swim toward the ocean, which they generally tend to do anyway without our helpful assistance. And PG&E's being required because of its licensing agreements to release enormous amounts of water from their hydroelectric dams in order to meet obligations to provide for kayaking.
Well, I like kayaking. So my understanding of it was that in the 70s, when Jerry Brown was first governor, the Earth Firster types, the Earth would be so much better without human beings, environmentalist types, realized, wait a minute, here's how we can stop population growth in California and development if we just cut off water so that you can't add on to a suburb if they can't get any water. So water will be our great tool. Well, we had the population growth anyway. It's practically doubled, as you've said, but we've still got the water for half the population.
Well, yeah, because controlling population growth is really not within the ability of government. You know, we human beings do a lot of things for hobbies. We build things, we grow things, but what we actually do for a living is we make more human beings. We've gotten very good at it. The population the population is going to continue to grow. The only question that government can answer is, are we going to meet the needs that are caused by that growth? For generations, government did so and did so admirably. It's only been this generation that our government has abandoned that responsibility, and I think you're right. Part of this is an integral tool in the no growth movement. And as I said, the only problem is they're not stopping the population from growing. They're stopping us from meeting the needs of a growing population.
It's bothered me every time I've heard Jerry Brown or anybody speaking on this issue. It's always about these minor little changes. Jerry Brown will talk about changing the little filter on the sink in your kitchen. I mean, it's going to save a cup full of water a year, but nobody ever talks about, and the media does a bad job of asking questions about the big structural changes you're talking about.
Well, and meanwhile, you know, they're threatening people with $500 fines if they take too long in the shower or, you know, spill a gallon of water on their sidewalk, and yet these same officials have no problems, as we've seen just this month, releasing 30,000 acre-feet of water. That's about 10 billion gallons. That's enough for a human population of about 300,000 human beings for an entire year. That's what they spilled out of the New Melones Dam this month, just to nudge about the offspring of about 29 steelhead trouts to swim toward the ocean. By the way, almost all of which will be eaten by predators before they get to the ocean.
I might be in favor of that as a guy who loves the outdoors. I love to fish, that sort of thing. But what's troubling is that it's not even discussed. Is that much water necessary? How successful is this going to be? Are these native species? Blah, blah, blah. That sort of stuff is just, it's inviolate. You can't even bring it up in California.
Yeah, but plus, the hydrologists are saying this is the worst drought that we've had in 1,200 years. In a drought like this, before we had dams, there would be no rivers and there would be no fish. The dams are how we are able to bring water from wet years so that we have it in dry years. The year-round flows on rivers are because of our dams. That's a happy byproduct of them. But their principal purpose is to store surplus water so that we have it in dry years. And putting the needs of the offspring of 29 steelhead trout ahead of the desperate needs of the real endangered species here, Homo sapiens, a population we just lost enough for the annual needs of 300,000 people in order to cater to the offspring of 29 steelhead trout. That is insane.
Anti-troutist Tom McClintock on the line.
That is pretty crazy.
Hey, so what's the first thing you do, Tom? You're in charge of California. You should have been governor. All the polls showed that everybody thought you were actually the best candidate when that numbskull Arnold won. Anyway, what's the first thing you do?
Well, the immediate thing is that the Endangered Species Act, which is requiring a lot of these spills, can be suspended by something called the Endangered Species Committee. It's more commonly called the God Squad. That can be convened either on direct order of the president or at the request of a governor. The governor has had that ability. I appealed to him, along with a number of other members of Congress, last year and again this year, to exercise that authority so that these requirements can be suspended and the little water that we have remaining to get us through the next year can be retained for human use. And so far, there's been no response.
Well, you follow this stuff closer than practically anybody else. How it's going to get pretty ugly this summer, isn't it? Because obviously the rainy season's over. We're not getting any more rain.
Our snowpack is at 5% of normal. As you point out, the rain season is officially over. The earliest we can expect substantial storms now is next fall. So, what we've got behind our dams is pretty much all that we've got to get through this. And that assumes the rains come back next fall. If they don't come back next fall, there are going to be entire communities that are going to be turning the faucets and no water's coming out. And these imbecilic releases of massive amounts of water, in fact, they call them pulse flows. They actually issue river warnings for people on the river to be careful because the currents are so big. That's what they're releasing out of our dams right now. That's the water that we're desperately going to need this fall. And I think we're going to be looking back on these days as the last chance we had to prevent entire communities from simply running out of water.
And what's the first dam you'd build so I can howl that it's a good idea?
Let's just finish the Shasta Dam for openers. It was built to 600 feet of elevation. It's designed to be 800 feet. That extra 200 feet of elevation, which is designed for, would add another 9 million acre-feet of water storage to the Sacramento system, would literally double our or almost double our water storage capacity. That's just finishing an existing dam. Then the Auburn Dam, which is supposed to be upstream from Folsom, would hold enough water to fill and refill Folsom Lake 2.5 times. It would also provide 400-year flood protection for the Sacramento Delta. Remember, we were spending zillions of dollars for levees. That's to protect against a 200-year flood. The Auburn Dam by itself would be 400-year flood protection. We half completed that dam in the early 1970s and then walked away from it.
Tom McClintock, U.S. Representative for California's 4th Congressional District, a member of the Committee on Natural Resources. Tom, good to talk to you. Thanks.
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks.
All right, go get him.